Hello everybody, this is our Have a Go Reflection Assembly. We're going to start with a quote from Steve Jobs. I wonder if any of you know who he was. He was one of the key founders of the company Apple. So that's the company who produce iPads and iPhones and all these things. He was one of the key people that put that company together. And he said once you learn, you'll never be the same again. I wonder what you think that means. Once you learn, you'll never be the same again. So last week we looked at our 3 learning points for the Have a Goal unit, and they are: setting a realistic goal helps to motivate us, learning to overcome setbacks helps us cope with future ones, and it is important to celebrate our successes. So now it's time to think. Do you have a manageable goal that you are working towards? We all really need a goal, and we don't reach our goals just automatically. We've got to really think about them and plan out how we're going to get there. A good idea is to write your goals down, maybe sort out which are the most important ones, decide which one you want to work towards first, and then decide what the steps are to help you get there. Because goals don't just happen. Imagine I wanted to surprise somebody for their birthday. I couldn't just surprise them without planning it out. What would be a nice surprise? Getting the things that I needed to make the surprise, and then making sure that I got the date right. Those are maybe my steps to surprising somebody. We all need to plan out our goals, no matter how small they are. Why don't you pause this video and have a little chat about the goals that you are going to work towards? Can you think of a time you faced a failure or a mistake? What did you do to overcome this? I think we've all faced mistakes and failures at some point, and sometimes we cope with them quite well and we learn from them and we can move on. Other times they might make us a little bit upset or frustrated or annoyed, but we have to overcome it. We have to learn to deal with the failures and the setbacks and think, right, what can we do now to get better at this? Why don't you pause this video just now and have a chat to those people round about you about the failures or mistakes that you've all had and overcome, and maybe how those experiences have helped you or will help you to deal with other future setbacks. How do you celebrate your achievements? Because achievements are really, really important. It's important that we celebrate them and we let people know about our achievements. It's important that we take pride in the things that we've worked towards and the goals that we've achieved. How do we know when we're feeling proud of something? Why don't you pause this video and have a little chat to those people round about you about how you celebrate your achievements and how you show that you're proud of something or someone. And now we're going to find out about some achievements from people that I think that you might know. So I'm going to share with you now some achievements from people that you might know, some people from our school that you might know. Some of the achievements are from small goals and some of them are from much bigger goals. So the first 2 achievements that I would like to share with you come from people who have been setting goals in their learning. And the first one is from Layla in Primary 5-6, who has been incredibly successful in all aspects of her home learning because she's been working really hard every day to complete everything that's been set and challenging herself at this difficult time. Now, I know a lot of you will be in the same shoes as Layla there, in the fact that you have been setting yourselves targets or goals to complete all your work and to complete it to a really high standard for your teachers. The second person is also from Primary 5-6, and that's Corey. And Corey's been really successful with his reading. So he's set himself goals and challenges with his reading, and he's worked hard to work out the tricky words in his book, and he's even used his initiative to show his work to Mrs. Brown. So that's a great achievement by you as well, Corey. Well done to both of you. The next achievement is an achievement from a staff member. Now, the staff member already knew how to knit, but she set herself a goal to knit some items for the baby that she's expecting to have very, very shortly, and that was Mrs. Walker. So Mrs. Walker has produced some blankets and a hat and some other items for her baby by knitting. So that was a goal that she set for herself, and she's very proud of her achievements. So the final achievement that I'd like to share with you is from another pupil in our school. I wonder if anybody recognises those boots. Well, they belong to Emily in primary 2-3, and Emily set herself quite a big goal, quite a big target, and she wanted to help raise money for Doddy Aid, which is a charity that supports those with MND, motor neuron disease, which is an uncommon condition that affects the brains and the nerves. So she decided that she wanted to help raise money for this charity, and she set herself the goal of walking 50 miles throughout January and the very start of February. And that is a very, very long way to walk 50 miles. And I think Emily has been working very hard, chipping away at her target, chipping away at that goal. And she's actually surpassed it. She's done more than the 50 miles. She's ended up walking a huge 65.57 miles. And that is when I'm recording this on Tuesday. But she's going to keep walking until Friday, so it'll be really interesting to see how many miles she clocks up by Friday. But that is a superb achievement from Emily on something that she set herself as a big goal that she took a long time to work towards. So very well done, Emily. And now we have a story from Skipper. Skipper has a book all about a girl who had a goal. Meet Rosie Revere, engineer.
Today we are reading Rosie Revere, Engineer by Andrea Beatty, illustrated by David Roberts. This is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of being a great engineer. In Lila Grew's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She'd worked with her hair swooping over one eye and made fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser and helium pants. The uncle she loved most was Zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head, from parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps the pythons away. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud, but Fred slapped his knee and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, to the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there quite embarrassed, perplexed and dismayed. "I love it," Fred hooted, "oh truly I do." But Rosie Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day kept her dreams to herself. And that's how it went until one autumn day. Her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great-great-aunt Rose was a true dynamo who'd worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of things she had done and goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. "The only thrill left on my list is to fly, but time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams." That night, as Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, a daring idea crept into her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at the cheese hat and said, "No, not I." But questions are tricky and some hold on tight, and this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. She worked and she worked till the day was half gone, then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The hella cheese copter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled round and round, then froze for a heartbeat. and crashed. And then Rosie heard laughter and turned around to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who thought, "Oh no, never, not ever again will I try to build something to sputter or spin, or build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer." She turned round to leave, then Great-Great-Aunt Rose grabbed hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close, and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. "You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try! This great flop is over. It's time for the next." Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. "I failed," said dear Rosie. "It's just made of trash. Don't you see? The cheese copter crashed." "Yes," said her great aunt, "it crashed, that is true. But first it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that it flew. Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and on to the next." She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. They worked till the sun sneaked away to its bed. Aunt Rose tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 build gizmos and gadgets and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Revere.
Now it's time for you to really think and talk about at home what your goal is going to be.